Welcome to this Q&A with the filmmakers from the programme Work. What a fantastic collection of films. We hope you enjoyed watching them. I'm Nuala O'Sullivan and I'm your host for this Q&A. I'd like to turn to Annie and ask about your mesmerising documentary, Trapped by Plastic. All those toothbrushes, all those toy soldiers, all those little balls that are part of our deodorants. I mean, completely beautiful, but completely horrific to what they do to our oceans. Can you tell us a bit about how you met the artist, Mandy Barker, and why you wanted to make a documentary about her now?
I actually worked as a lawyer for 25 years. And when I was turning 50, I had this realization that I, in my work, had spent 25 years looking at black and white documents. And I'd always wanted to make documentary films. And came across these incredible photos of Mandy's that draw you in because they're visually so enticing and attractive. And you then, in the embrace of the photo, before you realize what you're looking at, which is plastic waste that she found in the ocean, has reorganized precisely to have this draw and bring us close enough to deliver her message. And I approached her immediately to see if I could make a film with and about her, because I was very keen to focus on people who in their day job used their values and their expertise to make a real difference to others. And it seemed to me at a time where we're oversaturated with pictures of plastic waste, Mandy's approach is transformational and really captures us and grabs us in a way that many other communications on these issues, these very pressing issues, unfortunately don't do as effectively.
For the part about the footballs and how she really got people to really interact by sending her all those footballs, she really captures something about making this environmental disaster very real in a way that lots of quite heavy political people don't quite grasp. You captured her work and her passion and her anger really beautifully in your film. What were the things that you liked best, especially as yourself as an artist, working with another artist in the creation of this documentary?
It was very exciting. I think Mandy is also an activist and she knows what she wants to say, but we had enough time together that once she'd said that, we could go further and explore together more of the sort of backstory around why she's chosen this line of work in a way that's personal and revealing and shows the woman at the time, 56-year-old woman behind this extraordinary work.
Thank you, Annie. Now we're going to move on to talk to Darby Bailey about her film, Mita Has Been Masking. In a time of COVID, when we're all wearing masks so much, it's interesting to watch a film about masking, but it's a different type of masking, which in a way is a kind of full-time job. Can you tell us what the masking you're exploring in your experimental film is about, Darby?
So the masking I'm exploring is internal psychological masking. I was diagnosed with autism at a late age, at the age of 40, how old was I? 48. And didn't realize that I had been masking my entire life. And so during that period of the diagnosis and coming out of what I found out was a mild psychosis and some very troubling emotions that caused me to go seek help, I found myself very confused about internally who I was, what my representation of myself was externally, and how I fit into the world. But most of it is all the internal dialogue we have with ourselves and the roles we play, and how that can become confusing if we don't have a solid identity and we're trying to mask and be somebody else other than our authentic selves to outsiders.
Yeah, it's really interesting, very layered film. I love the humor and the variety in your film. You know, it's an experimental film, but it has animation too. Can you tell us what kind of reactions have you been getting from people watching your film?
The best reactions I've gotten, or at least the ones I like the most, are that it's thought-provoking, and I take that as a compliment in the sense that it provokes questions in people about their own the way they perceive themselves and how they present themselves to others. And I'm glad you said that there's humor in it, because that's actually my new focus is humor. I find laughter to be something that is a salve in life when there are troubling events, and the older I get, the more I seek it. I didn't intentionally do that, but I do have a lighthearted nature, and this is very much a self-disclosure piece in an experimental way with the animation as a layer. But yes, thought-provoking and interesting. So it's not, there's not a resolve to it really. It's something to just sit with.
You're absolutely right. The humor really gives us a chance to sometimes look at difficult subjects, and it's so interesting because we've all got that internal voice that's criticizing or talking to us constantly, and it was really nice to see that manifest in your film. Thank you so much for that insight, Darby. It was really interesting, and I loved how in your film there were all these different portraits, and it was like I was walking through an art gallery. I mean, frankly, I'd love to go to an art gallery where the paintings talk to me the way they did in your film. Thank you so much for your film, Darby. Our next film is Night Drive, and it's a French drama set in the world of long-distance truck drivers. What was it about this world, it's a very male one, that made you want to make your film with an older woman at its very center?
I was always attracted to this world of truck drivers because I love to drive a lot. And especially during the night, because I can just be with myself and think a lot and find solutions to a lot of problems when I drive. The truck drivers, the trucks are their homes. It's as if someone comes in your home and says, okay, now this is my bed and this is my my table and everything. The word of truck drivers is very, very special because they really love their job, because they're attached to their job is like a home for them. So they're very, very, very attached to that. And I wanted to show that.
Yeah, the protectiveness and the tension that it builds between the two characters in the cab. You know, you're just on tenterhooks to find out, you know, when the explosion is going to happen. You're absolutely right. Could I turn to your lead actor in Night Drive, Marina Tomei? I know that you've done a lot of campaigning work for equality for older women in film and TV, and you know that's a cause close to our heart here at WAF. Can you tell us something about the work that you're doing and the changes you're campaigning for, particularly in France?
I create the group, which name is Tunnel of the Actress Over 50, in 2015. And during 5 years, we have fought against the disappearance of mature feminine character in fiction work. But I really don't speak good English. And I'm so happy that Delphine Lalizou can be there and talk about our fight. Delphine, please.
What we realize is that today in France, one adult woman out of two is over 50. We realized that it was not only a problem for actresses and actors. It was an essential social challenge, because not representing women over 50 is just not giving role models to young ladies and not to give them good perspective in life. So that's why we are very proud now to go on this fight, and we would like other France to join some international groups that share our values and our vision on this issue.
Well, we are delighted to have made your acquaintance. You can definitely know that WAF would love to be part of any international movement. It's really important work. How can people outside France contact you?
There's a website, AAFA. .com, the group Alpha Tunnel on this website. And we also have a manifesto online.
I think, Marina, you sent me a translation of some of the work, so I'll post that out on social media to amplify the work that you're doing. It was really interesting, and thank you so much for making this connection. And thank you so much, Marina, for being the lead in this film and bringing your group's work to our attention. Our next film is a documentary from New Zealand. Daisy, can you tell us how you and Edith met? And did you know straight away that she was going to be such an interesting character?
Edith was actually my grandmother's neighbor for the duration of my mother's childhood. So she's always known us. She also shared a gateway between her property and my grandma's property. And so she would come over for tea every day or every other day and give my grandma the gossip or whatever's going on. And to this day, they still see each other. My grandma has since moved, but had lived in this one suburb bordering Edith's house for well over 40 years. So I've always known Edith. However, she hadn't started collecting dolls until within the last decade. It became a new thing. So she didn't have a lot of dolls. She only just started. And I think it was a means of sort of creativity and fun for her. Does definitely take up a majority of daytime, sort of activity, which I guess constitutes work.
And Daisy, there's always a chance, I think, in a film like this that you as a filmmaker or as audience members can be laughing at someone like Edith who may seem a bit eccentric. And I love that didn't happen in your film. And I believe, like Edith, you've got a bit of a collecting tendency yourself. Is that right? What similarities and differences between you and Edith emerged when you were making this documentary?
One of the things you sort of touched on was this idea of not punching down and not laughing at her. And, this sort of idea sparks with a morbid curiosity. You're immediately kind of drawn to the idea of hoarding and scary dolls and so many eyes in my house kind of thing. And so, I naturally have this fascination. And so going in there, I was really excited to go and explore it. And the more you kind of like go in there, you go, actually, this is kind of cool because she's creative. She's still very social and has family around her and friends that tell her to get rid of the dolls, which is all just part of banter and friendship. And she's a connected person who's surrounded by 3,000 of her favorite thing. And I think there's sort of a connection between millennial culture and the elderly where loneliness is a topic of conversation. And Edith has kind of cracked that, in my opinion. So, it becomes actually aspirational to go, what, being surrounded by 3,000 of my favorite things sounds like a pretty good life. I think Edith and I put together something that's actually like, I don't know, super charming and funny.
I couldn't agree more, Daisy. And I think particularly, a thing that we're very interested here at WAF is this idea of intergenerational conversation. And it seems like the two of you have a really lovely relationship. And that's so interesting to say that you see these connections of loneliness and isolation across the age gap. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Nene by King Louis Palomo. And the locations of this film are an absolute dream. But the thing I want to talk to you about today is the fact that death is so central in this film and that you don't shy away from it, particularly in one long, loving shot with the grandmother and a grandchild together. I felt I understood more about death from watching it. And I wanted to ask, what's been the reaction you've had from other people, particularly around the topic of the film? What kind of things have they said to you?
It's interesting how people reacted on death in particular. I think in film or TV in general, death is something everyone's afraid to do. But I think for me, because that scene specifically happened to me, that was actually inspired by how my father passed away. I was sleeping beside him. And then, I woke up just looking at him, didn't know that he's actually dead. It's just one of those that I want to capture. I don't want to capture the chaos after that happened, but I wanted to make sure how I shot it and is as beautiful as possible, because that's how I remember the morning of when my father passed away. And the chaos after that, I don't really remember because I went to school after that. So that's how I try to remember how my father passed away, because the night before we had a fight. So on this film, I want to capture the only one thing, the last morning I want to remember him is through that. And I don't want to chaos or the regrets that I had.
Oh, that's so interesting that these really pivotal moments in our life, they can stay with us for a long time and then they come out and you wanted to recreate this memory. And you did it so beautifully and so movingly. Thank you so much. It's been lovely talking to you.
Thank you.
Our next film this evening is Nanakarobi, or Seven Falls by Glenna Burma and Gabby Brighter. It's a gorgeous animation which tells the story of one of the hardest working characters in this program about work. I was completely blown away to learn that this is your first animated film. It was so beautiful and so sumptuous. We see in the credits that the film is dedicated to your mother, who was also an artist, I believe, a Japanese ink wash painter. Were you calling on her traditions and others when you were creating the animation? And why did you want to dedicate the film to her?
My mother passed away a few years ago, and I spent my entire life being a scientist. But when she passed away and I retired, I decided that I would become an artist, kind of in memory of her. She was a very successful sumi-e artist, and yet suffered terribly during the war. Both she and my Japanese grandmother, they watched the firebombing of Tokyo destroy their home. My mother watched the Hiroshima bomb drop and then ended up taking care of the survivors who walked into her town 2 days later. She went through many, many different types of challenges and yet pulled herself up each time and continued to be a successful sumi-e artist. And so the title of the film, which is Nanakarobi, Yaoki, means 7 times you may fall, but get back up the 8th. When I created this animation, I really wanted to find an animating team that could mimic sumi-e art. And so I did a bunch of storyboarding and then went out in search of a gifted animator that could do that. And that is, in fact, what I was lucky enough to find in Gabby Brighter and her team. It really was just serendipitous that the film was released during COVID, when all of us, everyone is undergoing 7 challenges and having to get back up the 8th and fight. And so I think that's one of the reasons why this film reached people, was that it really is the story of determination and love and doing everything you can to save the person or whatever it is that you cherish and love. And so that's what the film is about.
It's a beautiful film and a real testament to you and your mum. Really, it's so luscious, especially like the bit where the blackbirds come out of the trees. It looks so grand, and it's really your heart's in your mouth, wondering if she'll make it or not. Thank you so much for sharing your film with us. The final film in this program is Although I Am Retired, and although we don't have anyone from the film with us here today, I'd like to share something from the film's director, Fen Tian Xian. She said, "There's an ancient Chinese poem which says, 'Do not say old trees can't grow new leaves. The setting sun still glimmers in the sky and brings the glowing beauty.'" So, from some old trees here and our glowing new leaves, I'd like to say a huge thanks to all our filmmakers today for sharing their insights into their films. And one of our films is going to take home the coveted Audience Choice Award. So don't forget to vote for your favourite film on the festival website. For now, it's goodbye from me and from all of us here at WOF 21. Goodbye.